Hello, travelers, and welcome to the Horror Green Book, the channel that takes you from coast to coast and con to con. I am your travel guide, Brendan, and today we are here in the Scary Sanctuary to bring to you my review of Robert Eggers' Nosferatu remake. This has been a highly recommended, highly anticipated, film that a lot of horror fans have really been looking forward to for most of 2024, and it finally came to us on Christmas Day. So it's a perfect Christmas gift, travelers. With that said, we're going to get into some of the notes here that I took in the theater about my thoughts and feelings about this portrayal of this classic story. All right, guys, let's start off with Robert Eggers himself. So I personally think that he's done it again. I mean, the only film of his that I have yet to watch is The Northman. But as far as The Witch, The Lighthouse, and now Nosferatu, all three films I really enjoy, and this is my favorite of the three films of his that I've seen. So, needless to say, I definitely really enjoyed it. I would say it's the most approachable of all of his films to date. If you're someone that's just getting into Robert Eggers' filmography, it can be a pretty acquired taste, and pretty intimidating, especially if you're not familiar with his style. So let's just say, I would recommend someone actually go for this film as their first film of his to watch, as opposed to The Lighthouse, which can be pretty far out there if you've seen that film. It's a fun film as well, but it's not as approachable as this one. Another reason for that is because he's been fascinated with the Nosferatu story since he was 8 years old, I believe. He stated before in interviews that he came across a VHS copy of the film, and he watched it with his mom, and he was just totally amazed by the film. So that's very cool to know that he's had this idea of remaking this film in his head for years now. And funny enough, this is going to be one of his early films, but it kept getting delayed. And it was one of those fortunate things because, he's gained more skills over time. And I think it was the right place and right time for him to actually, tackle this film. So definitely great job for Robert Eggers for sure. And you also get nods to the previous films, such as the original 1920s Nosferatu, as well as the 70s version that was directed by Werner Herzog and starring Klaus Kinski. We also get a little bit of Bram Stoker's Dracula, directed by Francis Ford Coppola in the films, especially in regards to the final shot. It's one that will stay with you if you're anyone like me. I am a sucker for good final shots, and one of my favorites is the ending to Bram Stoker's Dracula, and this one is right neck and neck with that particular film. So I highly recommend it, guys. Next, we're going to talk about the cinematography. It was absolutely amazing. I love that the way that the camera moved throughout the film, and also how the absence of color was used at times. The blacks are really black. When it goes to black and white, those blacks are very deep, and that's very cool how it comes across. They mainly use practical effects, but the times that they do use CGI is very tastefully done, and it's not overused at all, which is something that a lot of modern films run into trouble with, because as we all know, CGI can quickly get dated as the years go on, and it can be one of those things that can be a negative, no matter how innovative the CGI is at that point. So it was very good on that side. And also, there's a shot involving a carriage that is absolutely breathtaking. If you are someone that just loves like very cinematic shots, you will know what I'm talking about when you reach that point in the film. So just wait till you get to that point and just like marvel at how really, really nice it looks. It's something that I'm going to look forward to in future viewings of this film, that particular scene and how awesome it looks. Um, the next thing that I want to talk about is the acting. The acting was very well done by the entire cast. Nicholas Holt, who coincidentally was in Renfield last year, he's starring as Renfield in that film. He plays Thomas Hutter, who is one of the protagonists in this film. He's the one that pretty much jumps off the story with his mission to, do business with Count Orlok, and that was really, really cool, that connection with last year's film Renfield and Nosferatu now. Lily Rose Depp's portrayal of Ellen Hutter, very surprising because there was a lot of buzz in regards to Anya Taylor-Joy not being involved in the film and her being replaced by Lily Rose Depp. And, there was a little bit of controversy with that because some people weren't satisfied with Lily's past work in HBO's The Idol. A lot of people were on pins and needles, waiting to see how her portrayal of Ellen would come about, and I would say that she did a fantastic job with it. This is a role that was very demanding in regards to using the body, and she does a fantastic job with it, to the point to where you're debating on whether that was her naturally doing that or if that was a little bit of help from CGI. But it still looks wonderful. It's a very demanding role because not only is it physically demanding, but it demanded a lot of emotional, depth with this role, because she's a woman who's obviously trying to help with get rid of this scourge on her town that has come into her life and has affected not only her relationship with her husband, but her friends as well, and people that are nearby, and just the whole town as a whole. So this is something that needs to be dealt with, and she brings a lot of emotion to it, and she does a very good job. I was very pleased with her role. Definitely say she did a lot better than I ever expected her to do in this role. So that's definitely a major positive. Next, Willem Dafoe. He plays the Van Helsing character in this film, and Willem Dafoe's pretty awesome as an addition, because those who are in the know that he portrayed Max Schreck in The Shadow of the Vampire, which is a film that is about the production and making of the original Nosferatu, in which Max Schreck is really a vampire in that film. So it's fun to have that particular callback of seeing him there, and he brings a lot of class and gravitas to the role. He does a really good job of chewing scenery in one particular scene, and you'll know it when you get to it. But he's just great. He has a way of like giving looks and using his voice, and he's just someone that just has a very powerful presence in his work. And of course, he's someone that has previously worked with Robert Eggers with The Lighthouse. So that chemistry is there. Lastly, I'll talk about, of course, Bill Skarsgård. Of course, wow, where do I start? Well, I guess with the makeup, because that is something that was kind of held from us with the trailer. Those of us that watched the trailer, which, was very tastefully done, it didn't reveal too much. It hit all the major beats for those of us that were familiar with the story to, become intrigued by seeing those shots that we're familiar with in the previous films, but seeing them updated for this modern adaptation. So, let's see. With that makeup, wow. In the back of every viewer's mind, before they show Count Orlok, you're wondering, wow, what's he going to look like? Is this going to be a good job? Are they going to, directly recreate the Max Schreck makeup from the original Nosferatu, which I'm glad that they didn't do, because, if you're a fan of horror films, that has been done over and over and over again. You know, not only in the '70s remake, but countless other properties such as like Salem Slide. There's a Nosferatu type vampire there. Blade 2, we have those types of vampires there. We also have like in The Strain, we have What We Do in the Shadows. There are just countless, Count Orlok type vampires out there as, homages. So I'm glad that Robert Eggers did something a bit different with the makeup this time around. What I did enjoy the most about this look would be the certain nods to the historical figure of Vlad Tepes or Vlad the Impaler. I'm not going to spoil exactly what the look is, but those of you that are familiar with how Vlad looked, he's pretty identifiable. And once you see Count Orlok's look, you're like, oh, that's pretty awesome. I wonder why no one's, ever really done a look like that for, Count Orlok. So that's very, very cool. I would say the closest that we've gotten a look to that would be Bram Stoker's Dracula. But we'll talk about that in future videos that involve spoilers. But what's really cool about that is I really enjoyed that because of his appearance in this film. It will really stand on its own, and I look forward to people recreating this look in cosplays. So that's going to be something, as someone that goes to conventions all over the country, that whenever I see this updated Count Orlok, they're definitely going to end up on the channel on the cosplay vlog. The next thing that I would like to talk about in regards to Skarsgård's portrayal would be his voice, which is just as shocking as his appearance. I think that it would be something that people will imitate in the future. Very often, it's a very unique speech pattern, very unique voice that he has developed for this character. And I think it's something that will be similar to Bela Lugosi's Count Dracula portrayal, because it's so iconic. Everyone knows that, iconic accent and everything. And this will be something that future generations will do in regards to this film, because I think it's a pretty awesome voice, the way that he's done it. If you are familiar with Bill's regular voice, he must have really went through some sort of training to develop this particular voice and accent that Orlok has. So be on the lookout for that, travelers, for sure. Let's see. But also, the last thing about Bill Skarsgård's portrayal is that his presence really looms large throughout the film. He feels like someone that's right over your shoulder, even though he's in the film for maybe 15 minutes, which is very awesome because he doesn't overstay his welcome. They don't really show him, fully often. He's kind of in the shadows, which lends to that creepiness. And, even though the other characters may be, engaged in a scene where they're talking about having to deal with this danger, you really feel that urgency of like, man, they really have to do something about him because he's taking over, and it's very apparent in the film. As far as storyline goes, if you're familiar with the Dracula story, then you're pretty much familiar with everything that's going to happen in this film and all the major beats. So Robert Eggers does a very good job of, really bringing his own touch into these story beats that we are coming to expect in this film. Great cinematography, as I've mentioned, but also, attacking things from a different angle than we will probably really expect. I think that was really cool. Let's see. But it does take certain detours and inspirations from other films, such as Bram Stoker's Dracula, as I mentioned before. But something that's different from Bram Stoker's Dracula is the fact that this isn't a romantic portrayal of a vampire's hunt for a victim. This is something that's really horrifying. And also, this isn't an attractive vampire. something that's been going on since I would say Interview with the Vampire is the romantic portrayal of vampires that we've been getting, the Twilights and things of that nature. Um, this is continuing on along with last year's the Voyage of the Demeter, which is another vampire related film, along with Renfield that came out last year, that deals with a chapter in Dracula where Dracula is making his voyage across the seas from Transylvania to England in that film, and Germany in Nosferatu. But they're bringing scary and ugly, horrific looking vampires back. And I think that's something that is much needed, and that brings a certain viciousness to the genre that we love. If the vampires are too attractive, it's just one of those things that just kind of takes away from the mystique, I feel. I think vampires can be ugly and still be sexy in a way, but it's more so in that factor of like the danger, the fact that this is an innately sexual creature on just the way that they have to live and how they have to feed on someone. But there's also just that danger of knowing that they have that utmost power of ending your life very quickly. So I'm all here for welcoming vampires that aren't sex symbols. And is something that's right out of the book. Count Dracula, at least in the early part of the book, is an old man. He's a extremely old, ancient man that comes from an ancient culture. So you're supposed to get that feel from him, and it's something that's kind of similar for to Bram Stoker's Dracula, to where the fact that at the beginning of that film, Gary Oldman's character is an old man, but with this film, there's no transforming into a very sexy version of him. So that's very cool to see. Now, as far as negatives go, there aren't many negatives for me per se. But for others, I would say that this may go on a bit long as far as runtime. This is a film that is 2 hours and 15 minutes roughly. So you may be someone that's unfamiliar with Robert Eggers's style, and you may get a little burnt out, mainly because it is a dialogue heavy film at some points. So you just have to be in it for the long run. If you're not someone that is into slow burns, you may not have the best time with this. Now, even though that this is a film that is dialogue heavy, I see that as a positive because I am familiar with the Universal Dracula's history of being a stage play at first, and even with Bela Lugosi being the lead as Dracula on that stage play version of Dracula. So while you're watching this film, you can't help but be wrapped up in the drama, be wrapped up in the suspense, be wrapped up in the whole environment and feel of this movie, because it does rely on the emotional depth of the characters when Count Orlok is not on screen. So I really enjoyed that aspect, that I could just sit back and really just feel engulfed in the drama that's going on with this film. But if you're someone that just doesn't really have that love for that type of overall film, then this may not be the best film for you, honestly. And your mileage may possibly vary. And with that being said, I would say that I highly recommend Robert Eggers' version of Nosferatu. It was a good time, and I really look forward to what he does in the future. I'm going to more than likely see this film again tomorrow or the day afterwards. But I thought it over a bit, and I think this is pretty much in the top 2 films of this year for me. So it ended off 2024 very nicely for me, travelers. I must say that. But again, I will say that's all I have to say, and those are my thoughts on 2024's Nosferatu. It is highly recommended, guys. But again, my name is Brendan. I am your travel guide with the Horror Green Book. Like this video, or as we say on this channel, give me those Ash Williams severed hands. Comment in regards to your thoughts and feelings on Robert Eggers' 2024 Nosferatu, and hit that subscribe button. I'm planning on doing more reviews and more polished reviews in 2025. That's something I promised my subscribers. So if you want to stick around and talk more horror with me, hit that notification bell, because I go to conventions all over the country and filming locations, like pretty much everything, guys. If you're into horror, you may want to stick around. But with that being said, travelers, it is scary in those streets. So let me know that you made it home safely.